tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good morning, everyone. Today we shall be starting another new topic, Kaya Pasada, but still under the main topic of Vattu-Rūpas basis. So far we have discussed the five bases, Vattu-Rūpas, which are Hade Vattu, the heart base, and the four sensitivities of eye, ear, tongue and nose and tongue. What is left is the body sensitivity, the sensitivity which feels the touch, the tangible object. Then I think I was able to send a handout today at the last moment. Hope everyone got it in the WhatsApp group, I could say it only. Then I'll also be focusing on the tangible object itself. That part was not given in the handout. So so today our focus is on Kaya Pasada, that is the body sensitivity, and Pottabba. Pottabba Rūpa is the touch, the tangible object. Kaya Pasada is the sensitivity on the body, sensitivity of the body, or sensitivity depending or is spread all over the body. This Rūpa is sensitive to the tangible object. I think most of us have already known this fact. The tangible object according to Theravada are the Patavi, Teju and Vayu, hardness, heat and the air element. If you remember the formula for all the Kamaja Rūpas, yes, Kamaja Rūpas are affected by, now it's produced by karma. Karma, it produces the Kamaja Rūpa. Right. And it's affected by the craving. Yeah, one sister once told me it's better to put the craving here as a catalyst, which affects, because this can indicate that the craving is creating karma and karma is creating Kamaja Rūpa. That is also correct in one sense, but actually karma is the Chetana. What the craving does is it makes the Chetana, it incapacitates the Chetana to able to give a vipaka. Due to the effect, due to being affected by craving, the Chetana gets the capacity. So that's why it incapacitates, gets the capacity to produce a result. That's why I use the two-line arrow to indicate that it is affecting. It's not producing. Kamma is producing Kamaja Rūpa. Kamma is producing, or if you like, you can mention like Kamma is affected by craving, producing Kamaja Rūpa. Right? This is the normal formula. It's not only for Kamaja Rūpas, any resultant of karma can be applied into this formula. Because if you don't possess craving, if you are an arahant, your actions are infertile. They cannot produce good or bad results. They cannot produce any result. The effect of this craving is the reason why the karma gets the ability to yield a result. So it's an incapacitating function. It's not only karma, but avijja, the ignorance, also has a contribution in this regard. That is why the Buddha mentioned sankhara is caused by avijja. Sankhara is caused by avijja. How avijja and sankhara, avijja and tanha affecting the karma is a different topic, which we shall discuss at a later time. If I give a brief explanation on this. Due to ignorance, we are unaware of the true natures of this life. As a result, an extra effort occurs in our day-to-day actions. Think about someone who has undergone a trauma during the childhood. Due to this effect, if that trauma was not cleared, if the emotional intelligence or emotional knowledge was not given to the child, even after he has grown into an adult, he would still have the effects of this trauma. He would act little bit weirdly than the others. What is the reason? The ignorance about the incident which happened, maybe a death of a beloved one, abandoning of someone, or due to being bullied in the classes. There can be many reasons. So due to these, since he was unable to understand the reality in a deeper sense, in a broader sense, still the effects of this incident remains within him. So as a result, when he does the actions, when he comes under similar circumstances, he acts weirdly than the normal people. A psychiatric, knowing this weirdness, would inquire into his past, do psychotherapy, and will find out that this is the root cause of this weirdness. Then he would give a therapy or do the counseling and removes his ignorance or unnecessary fear or whatever the emotion, the negative emotion he has towards that particular incident. When that emotion is removed, when the person is schooled with more proper emotions, when the emotional intelligence is given, he would be able to cope. His weirdity would come into normalcy. Now he would act normal as an ordinary person. So likewise, we are not aware of the true natures. We are also under trauma. So we think there is I am. There are things that I possess. There is a self here. There are selves outside. So due to these wrong thinking patterns, our actions are quite weird than that of a person who doesn't have this ignorance. That means an arahant. So both the two people doing the same action, a person with ignorance or without ignorance doing the same action, the nature of this chetasika, nature of the chetana would be slightly different. Like a person who has undergone a trauma and not recovered from this would act weirdly from a normal person. A person who doesn't have the understanding, who is with ignorance, would act differently from someone who is without the ignorance. So this extra nature that is caused by ignorance is called is a sort of a particular nature found in Chetana. That's an extra effort, extra involvement in there. We can see it now. For example, the same acts that we do when our mind is distracted, or when we are affected by certain strong defilements. The normal acts that we do in day-to-day life, even in such acts, we would feel that there is some kind of restlessness in it. We are unable to do it properly. There's an extra effort going in it. So a person looking from outside can actually see that the person is a little bit different these days. So likewise, the avidya causes the chetanas to have an extra effort. Effort means it's not the effort that is known in the normal sense. It's a sort of extra activity, active nature is found in the chetana. That nature is implanted or remains after the chetana has passed away. This is called the karma force. That's why avidya is bringing the sankhara. Sankhara is the realities, the chetanas with that extra active nature. Then why a sankhara, a chetana, is capable of producing nama rupa? It's because it's been affected by craving. Craving wants more and more nama rupa and this life stream to continue. It doesn't, fundamentally, it doesn't like to be apart from this nama rupa process. It wants it to continue. The craving needs this nama rupa process to continue. Life to continue. It means to have new and new nama rupa. So since the Chetana has been affected by craving, instead of producing something else, Chetana produces more nama rupa in future. So these are the two effects of avidya and craving to the karma. So karma produces nama and rupa. Therefore, we can also add ignorance into this. Ignorance. Ignorance into this formula as well, right? Anyway, we'll go with the normal formula that we discussed. So the karma, in this case, in the kaya pasada's case, karma is producing kaya pasada. What is the craving effect in this karma? Craving to touch. Feel the touch. Craving to feel the touch. This karma kaya pasada, as any other rupa, is also located in a material cluster. That particular material cluster, which is together with kaya pasada, is called kaya dasaka kalapa. Kaya dasaka kalapa. It is constituted with 10 rupas: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Vanna, Gandha, Ji, Rasa, Oja, Oje, and then Jivitindriya, Jivi, and Kaya Pasada, KP. Right? Kaya Pasada. A cluster of these 10 rupas is called Kaya Dasaka Kalapa. And their generation, the generation of these clusters is called Kaya Santati. Kaya Santati. All the Kaya Dasaka Kalapas in a single being's body are considered as a one generation. They are spread all over the body. Except the places like edge of the hair, edge of the tip of the nails, tip of the teeth, where the sense is, the touch, the feeling is not felt, according to Theravada teachings. And we should also know the difference between Pasada Kaya and Sasambhara Kaya. I have given them in the handout. Sasambhara Kaya. The meanings are, Kasada Kaya are the sensitivities, the body sensitivity, the sensitivity which is sensitive to the tangible object. Sasambhara Kaya is the physical body that we possess, the huge body, which is constituted with 4 types of rupa. Rupa produced by karma, rupa produced by consciousness or mentalities, rupa produced by the heat element, tejo dhatu, and the rupa produced by the nutriment. So Sasambhara Kaya refers to the entire body. Pasada Kaya is the sensitivity that exists all over the body, and it is not found in every kalapa, only in these kalapas produced by the karma. The simile is given like the oil in a cotton, wool of cotton, a piece of cotton. When we dip a piece of cotton into oil, it will be spread all over the cotton. So likewise, Kaya Pasada Rupas can be found all over the body, but it doesn't mean that it is found in every kalapa, according to teachings. It's found in only particular kalapas that are spread all over the body. So there are few kalapas, which kamaja kalapas, which are spread all over the body. Kaya dasaka kalapas, bhava dasaka kalapas, and jivita navakas. All these three are found in the entire body. Chakku sota, eye sensitive, chakku sota gana jivha and vattu dasaka kalapas are only located at specific areas in the body. They are only found in specific areas. Only they are localized in some areas. But kaya, bhava, and jivita are spread all over the body. So then we move on to, we shall go into the 2.121. 2.12, and before going, as we discussed for the remaining pasadas, actually what the explanation given in the books are: craving, affecting the karma, and that karma is producing 4 great elements, and kaya pasada is depending on this. So the definition would be, if you go to the first paragraph, the second line, okay, we shall read the entire. The body sensitive is the matter against which M-A-T-T-E-R, right? Matter, not matter. This matter is motherly or something. Body sensitivity is the matter against which tangible objects strike, and that which becomes the base for the body consciousness to arise upon. It is a sensitivity that depends on the 4 great elements. It is a sensitivity that depends on the 4 great elements that have arisen due to a karma that has been affected by craving to touch, craving for touch, or craving to touch, craving to feel the touch. So though we can say that the karma is producing the entire kaya, also the kaya pasada, but the definition is given: karma is producing the 4 great elements, and the kaya pasada depends on these 4 great elements. But actually, the entire kalapa is produced by the karma. So we shall move on to 2.121. 2.121. The kaya pasada is a matter produced by past karma affected by the desire to feel touch. Beings naturally inherit craving to feel touch of desirable tangible objects. Tangible means that can be felt. Karmas of a being whose desire to feel is not suppressed are affected by it. So the karmas of beings whose desire to touch is not suppressed, these karmas are affected by this craving. As a result, when born in a new life, one of her past karmas affected by the craving to feel touch produces a corporeal reality that is sensitive to tangible objects and which can facilitate feeling of touch by becoming the base for the body consciousness. Now when the kaya pasada, for instance, if this is kaya pasada, KP, kaya pasada, a tangible object strikes, Pottabba Rūpa, PR, Pottabba Rūpa, strikes at it. When it strikes, Kaya Vijnana, KV, arises on this Kaya Pasada. Kaya Pasada is the base for the Kaya Vijnana to arise, and it is caused by this material strike. It is a physical strike, unlike the eye and ear. Eye and ear, according to Theravada teachings, doesn't come and strike at the sensitivity. They causes an image to appear on the sensitivity being distance, being in a distance. But according to the ancient commentaries, the sound comes and strikes. There is an argument within the tradition about this matter. Anyway, these days the modern Abhidhamma, the later Abhidhamma books explain that sound doesn't strike at the ear. But with regard to the nose, tongue and body sensitivities, the objects has to come and strikes at the sensitivities physically. When the strike happens, the sensitivity undergoes a certain change. It's like the burning of a negative when exposed to the light, or a seal being made on a some sort of lac, so it will be affected. The marks of the seal would be found there. So likewise, the sensitivity is affected by the striking, and afterwards that sensitivity is not sensitive to any other object. It's not sensitive to any other object. After the negative of a reel in old cameras is exposed to the light, you cannot have another image on it. It's completely burnt out. So likewise, these pasadas after striking cannot be used for, is not sensitive to any other Rūpa. So due to this striking, due to this physical strike, the bhavanga process is interrupted. Bhavanga is interrupted. So as soon as the strike happens, bhavanga vibrates. Theravadians are of the opinion that it happens as a law of nature. One sub-commentator explains this is due to the connection between the place of the strike and the heart base are connected physically. So due to this physical connection, this vibration happens. Paramattha Dipani rejects this idea. It says it's not a physical, there is not necessary of a physical connection. And some other commentators even say after a certain limb is being taken out from the body, for a short period of time, as long as the Kammaja Rūpas remain in the removed part, the pain can be felt. There are such incidences where the head was removed, but still the eyes were blinking for a shorter period. Anyway, so according to that, a physical connection is not that relevant. Then the bhavanga vibrates. We call it bhavanga chalana as soon as the strike happens. Some book says, one commentator says, the striking happens at the Atita Bhavanga level, but the vibration happens at a later stage. There is one opinion on this. Some books have mentioned this, but that is not something accepted by the sub-commentators. Most of the sub-commentators suggest that the striking and the vibration happens at the same time. Then, but you study in ITBMU differently, I know. That there's a different explanation. That's the second opinion. That was of a very ancient sub-commentary. In some Sinhalese books also contains this information, right? So some can be confused. That's why I mentioned this. So this striking happens, the bhavanga vibrates. Then bhavanga is still, vibration means it's interrupted. Bhavanga has a certain particular object, but that focus to that object is interrupted by the new incoming object. That interruption continues for another mind moment. Then an adverting consciousness arises, adverting the mind towards the newly arrived object. Then the kaya vijnana arises, taking or feeling the object that has struck at the body sensitivity. This kaya vijnana arises on the kaya pasada. Then this physical onness, the location, is another problem in the Theravada tradition. It says it's not sort of a physical dependence is found, because it's an immaterial thing. It's only depending, but not physically. Tadayatta vuttita. Tadayatta vuttita means kaya vijnana arises due to the striking of the two object and the sensitivity. And without the sensitivity, kaya vijnana doesn't arise. But it is not to say that it is located there. Located means it's not something that the kaya vijnana is arising on the surface of the pasada or within the pasada. But this leads to a huge problem. That is one of the biggest problems even Descartes has in Judaism. He mentioned that the consciousness means the self, the one who thinks, the thinking thing, according to him, cannot be located in the body because it's not a physical thing, it's not an extended thing. The counter argument is, if it is not located on the body, so why is that why it is that it doesn't feel the touches, or it doesn't affect the other bodies of others? Why it cannot feel the touch of another body? So if it is not located within the body, so what is the guarantee that we can say that it is not feeling something outside the body or not someone else's body? Why it is only affecting this body? Why the inputs that are given only to this body is felt by that consciousness? These are problems, right? So to my opinion, it is somewhat clear that the consciousness is depending on the body, that there should be some sort of physical relationship with the consciousness. Because if you say now the thing is very, very weird in the arupa realm, because in the arupa realm it is not associating any rupa. It's not associating any rupa. So there is no dependence of a rupa. So even in this occasion, now if the consciousness is physically not depending on this, right? It's just happening. You cannot locate where it is. If it is the case, we say it depends on, because without kaya pasada it doesn't arise. So the problem comes in arupa realm, because there is no dependence. So where does the consciousness exist? Is it within the arupa realm? How can we determine this? But the literature clearly says arupa realm is located in such a distance from the earth or from the highest Brahma realm. So personally I feel there should be a physical relationship with the consciousness, relationship of the consciousness. Anyway, so the kaya vijnana arises depending on the kaya pasada due to the striking, right? Due to the striking. Then we move on to the occasions now. If someone has not suppressed the craving to feel touch, he will possess kaya pasada in the following life. If someone has subdued this desire, he may not possess kaya pasada in the next life. So there are few occasions where kaya pasada can be lost, can be not found. Arupa realm, where someone has completely suppressed the desire for rupa. As a result, he possesses a life, gets a life, obtains a life without matter, only with consciousness, only with the mentalities. Since kaya pasada belongs to the group of materiality, it's not found there. Then the asanya satta realm. Asanya satta is the realm without consciousness. One attains this realm, is born in this realm only after suppressing the desire to consciousness. That has to be done by attaining a jhana and developing the detachment towards consciousness. There has to be two types of meditations in order to attain asanya satta. One has to get rid of defilements by attaining jhana, sensual desires, and then suppress the desire to consciousness. Someone can ask, after he has suppressed the desire to consciousness, what happens if he suppresses the desire to rupa as well? Is he going to get a life without nama and rupa? So it is not the phenomenon that I have to say. This is a very valid argument, because there is no obstacle for someone to do that. Right? Someone can suppress the desire for the consciousness by, now first someone has to attain jhana. Having attained the jhana, he suppresses the desire to the consciousness. After the fifth jhana, it's a different type of contemplation. Chitta viraga bhavana we call. Then after have attained that level, what do we think if he goes for the arupa jhanas by suppressing the desire for the rupa? And if he is successful, what would be the result? Which meditate? Now, technically he has to have a life without nama and rupa. That doesn't make sense, right? That doesn't make sense. A life without nama and rupa, and then suddenly nama and rupa arises again. That is not the phenomenon. That's not how the phenomena works. So it seems like either his first meditation or second meditation becomes prominent, and somehow he would get either nama or either rupa. Or maybe the phenomenon is, I'm unable to say that, maybe the phenomenon is, if you have suppressed the desire for the consciousness, that you will not attain arupa jhana. Or maybe if you have suppressed the desire for the rupa and attain arupa jhana, you may not be able to do the chitta viraga bhavana. Maybe that's the reason, because it's not fully affecting. It is that only one of these desires can be suppressed, not both together. Right? Not both together. For example, when you put down one side of a zizo, other side has to come up. You cannot put both down together. Maybe something like that. Right? Maybe something like that. Anyway, it's still a valid question. So asanya satta realm, one suppresses the desire for the consciousness. Therefore, he attains a life without consciousness, only with Rūpa. Since there is no desire for the consciousness, there is no necessity for any Rūpa that facilitates, that supports the consciousness. So these pasadas and Vatturupas are required for the consciousness to happen, to occur. Since there is no consciousness occurring in that life, no Vatturupa is required. So Vatturupa is missing, Kaya Pasada is missing there. Then we come into Rūpa Avachara realms. The remaining 15 Brahma worlds, except the Asanya Satta, is 1 and 4. Altogether 20. In the Arupa Avachara realm, one suppresses the sensual desires while attaining the first jhana. Actually, the desires suppressed by the Upachara Samadhi, but a further suppression happens in the jhana level. When someone is born in the Arupa realm with a jhana karma, what happens? He may not get the three sensitivities, the last three sensitivities, that is to say, ear, tongue, and body sensitivity. The reason given is they are only supportive, they are relevant for the enjoyment of sensuality, not for wholesome deeds. Right? So therefore, Kaya Pasada is not required in the Kaya Brahma. Then the question comes, what about the posture? Now, when the Brahmas doesn't have the Kaya Pasada, what do we think? How do they sit? How do they walk? For example, now walking, when we keep the foot on something, on the floor, why do we stop that moving? Because after we feel that touch, then we are not going to, we stopped it there. So when we are sitting or when we are doing some activity, for example, if I touch this, how do I know that I have touched it? It's through the body sensitivity. If the Brahmas are not feeling the touch, how do they walk? Walk means how do they keep their foot? Because how do they know that they are standing on the earth, on a ground? How do they sit on some bench or some chair that they possess in their lives? Right? So this is another question. For that we have to understand the postures in our physical body according to the scientific findings. The postures are done, the posturing, the mechanism of keeping the postures is regulated by a different part of the body. It's not through the touch. It's not through the touch. It's a different sense. So likewise, now for example, when we wake up in the early morning, we know where our hands are. We know where the legs are. We can quickly refer to that. So the scientists say it's not due to the touch. It's a different sense in our body which locates our body parts, which makes us enable to and enables us to locate our body parts. So likewise, maybe the Brahmas are possessing that sense, so they are able to understand where their body limbs are felt. But it would be very, very weird. But the Dr. Ryan also once said there's a child who was born who couldn't feel the touch, right? But still, I think he or she can properly walk and do the activities. Maybe that kind of mechanism is going in the Brahma realm. That is a very weird thing, only can be known by attaining the Brahma life. But the thing is, if you attain it, you will not come and tell it to humans. Then the next, so these are the occasions where the Kama Kaya Pasada is not obtained. Every Kama Avachara being possesses, they do not have Kaya Pasada. Every Kama being possesses kaya pasada, like that of jiva pasada, like that of jiva pasada, inside or outside the body, the entire whatever it's felt. So as some weird cases can be there, where some children cannot feel the touch or cannot feel any pain in the body. According to Theravadians, if you explain it based on the Theravada perspective, maybe some karma or some physical function is obstructing that sense. It's other than he or she is not possessing the kaya pasada. According to Theravada, the person has to possess the kaya pasada due to some influence of some other cause. Maybe he or she is not feeling the pain. So these are the points that I would like to discuss about the kaya pasada. Then we come into pottabha rūpa. Pottabha rūpa. Pottabha rūpa means tangible object. According to Theravadians, pottabha is considered patavi, is either patavi, either tejo or vayu. Patavi is the hardness, the quality that doesn't allow another substance to go through it. Tejo is the heat or the coldness. Vayu is the bloating nature, the pushing nature. They can be felt with the body. They can be felt with the body. The obvious question that comes is, why apo is missing here? Why apo is missing? Why apo cannot be felt? In the Dhammasangani, while explaining the pottabha rūpa, only classifies 3 rūpas: patavi, tejo and vayu. It excludes apo. The reason is, now we discussed about 2 types of apo, right? Apo within the kalapa, interkalapa, if you remember, right? Within the kalapa, it doesn't allow the remaining rūpas, remaining qualities, right? Oh, come on. What has happened? Okay. Apo. Okay, we'll erase it and draw it newly. Patavi, we drew it. Which color? Forgot now. Okay, white color. Patavi, the hardness. Then tejo, surely red. Heat, for example. Tejo is found. And they are held inwards by apo and pushed away by tejo, vayu. Pushed away by vayu. So as a result, they happen to exist in a certain area, certain range, right? Why they are not scattered in the space? Because they are held inwards by apo. Why they are not shrinking and falling and doesn't collapse? Because they are being pushed by vayu. So we can see that apo, this is the kalapa. Apo is a force that acts inwards. So even you touch it from outside, now we are unable to feel it. That is why Dhammasangani does not include apo in the pottabha. Then we come into interkalapa apo. So these are 2 kalapas. Few kalapas are there. Why are we unable to remove one kalapa from a body of kalapas? That is because kalapas are attached to each other. They are attracted to each other. This is pushed to this side by this kalapa. Due to this kalapa, it is pushed inside. So it's also within the body. There is a interaction between the kalapas. This interaction, now if you think about a body, this interaction is felt between the kalapas. Between the kalapas. So therefore, when you touch it from outside, we are not going to feel it. That is why apo is being excluded. Apo is either within the kalapa or between the kalapas in a physical body. In a physical body. So even you touch it from outside, one would not be able to feel it. Right? That's the explanation. Then we'll come into there is an counter argument for this. I'll come at the end. So the Paramata Dipani argues that if apo can be felt even while we are touching a piece of steel or piece of wood, we'll be able to feel this holding nature, bonding nature, or attracting nature. Because when we touch a piece of wood or piece of iron, we either feel the hardness, heat or coldness, and sometimes we may feel a push to the outside. So for example, that can be felt if you are pressing a balloon, for example. If you press a balloon, you can feel that how it is pushing outwards. But apo is not felt normally. Apo is not felt. Then someone can ask, what is the coldness we feel? Coldness that we feel when we touch water, isn't it apo? Isn't it apo? Then one can ask the question about wetness. Wetness is a different topic. Right? Wetness is a completely different topic, which is not easy even explained scientifically. The coldness we feel when we put our hands into a bucket of water is not the apo. It is tejo. It is tejo. It is the cold tejo. Right? It is the cold tejo. If apo is cold, if apo is felt cold, even when we melt iron, when we melt iron and make a liquid, still we should be feeling cold because it's full of apo. So therefore, coldness is not apo. Coldness is tejo. Coldness is tejo. There are two unsolved questions yet: wetness and the liquidity. Wetness and liquidity. Before going into that, we also like to emphasize now. Apo within a kalapa is holding the rupas into its confined area, holding them, not letting them to scatter. Then apo between the kalapas are attracting each kalapas to each other. So it's very difficult to remove a kalapa from a certain particular body. Body means a gathering of kalapas. The question comes, sometimes we do feel we call it dragging. Dragging, I forgot the technical term for that. Dragging. Like for instance, if you keep a piece of steel or iron close to an magnet, you feel your hand is being dragged towards that. Dragging. We feel it. Now if you drag someone's hand, what is the sensation that we get? We feel the hardness, that's for sure. We feel the heat. Yes, when you press the hand with our hand, when we press someone's hand with our hand, we can feel the pushing nature, vayu. Why we are dragging? What is the sensation we get? Because vayu is felt when you push against something. When you are dragging outwards. For example, we know that according to the theory, practicality, a bigger object, if it is a bigger object, when a smaller object comes closer to that, it is dragged towards that object. Sort of gravity is there. Gravity is felt. Gravity is there. There's a certain force. That force is similar to the force that is felt interkalapa, interunitary or interunit forces. Unable to give you give an answer for this. Even I myself struggles here. Then a gravitational force, according to the modern findings of the relativity, Einstein's, we know that space and time is found like space-time is a one interconnected thing, like a net. So, for example, space-time is bent closer to a larger object. So whatever the small object that comes close to it is felt drag because to the curve of the space-time. Due to the curve of the space-time. That is how Einstein explains this. Newton explains that there's a force that drags each other. That drags each other. We do use the Newton's laws still to explain the gravity, but the most accepted theory is the Einstein's curve. Now, under both the theories, what Buddhism explains is what is being felt. Right? We don't go into such kind of detailed analysis like what is behind this and so forth. It is the force. We feel it. Someone feels that it is being dragged. So what is the Rūpa, or what is being felt while we are dragging? For example, while we are being dragged actually. So now this is a magnet, close to a magnet, iron is brought and we feel it's been dragged here. Dragging is not Vayu. Vayu is pushing outwards. It's not Patavi, it's not Teju. So we feel like our hand is being dragged towards the iron, toward the magnet. What is this feel? Right? That is another question. So if we explain Vapo in terms of interkalapa, because if you cut this interkalapa Apo, then there's a huge problem. Why in a single body, kalapas are attached to each other? What is that force? So that's why we came into the idea of an interkalapa Apo. And I gave many lectures on this to prove why these forces are acceptable. If so, what is the force that is felt when we come closer to another object, or to a bigger object, or to closer to a magnet, something which drags us? That's another thing. I will leave it unsolved. Then we come into another topic called liquidity. Liquidity, because Apo, according to Theravada teachings, has two definitions. Abandhana and Paggarana. Abandhana is the cohesiveness, cohesion. That's what we discussed when we studied Apo. Cohesion. The force that holds other realities. Force that attracts the other realities. Cohesion. Paggarana is flowing nature. Fluidity. It flows. Scientifically, fluid is made, the nature of fluidity cannot be explained in terms of subatomic particles. Fluidity is an emergence. Emergence means due to the, for example, if this A is the most fundamental phase, out of A, B is created, means when they come together, B is found. It's not a new reality. B can be reduced into A, but there are some extra characteristics. For example, it should be A plus B should be A plus B, right? Actually, this is the first level, this is second level. If things can be reduced into its components, there's nothing new. But we see some new qualities in the second layer. These are called emergent things. Liquidity is sort of an emerged quality, because due to the attraction between hydrogen and oxygen bonds, atoms, H2O is created, O and H. We know that there is other than the ionic and covalent bonds, there is something called hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds are some sort of polarization. If I remember, I'm not sure whether the plus and minus should be up and down. Anyway, there is a polarization in the attraction. So therefore, liquid, they instead of becoming air, H2O is somewhat connected with these particles are connected with each other. Another H2O, H, right? So this is the bondages that we have. Then we get a new quality called liquidity, which is not easy to be explained in terms of the subatomic particles. If you go to quarks and leptons, electrons, it's not possible to explain this liquidity just by their qualities. Liquidity is the emergent quality. So likewise, liquidity in Buddhism. Now I come to the Theravada teachings. Now think about a kalapa. One kalapa. Can one kalapa be liquid? Liquid flowing. If you are telling that one kalapa is flowing, how would it be? It should be like this kalapa. If the apo is higher in this kalapa, this would be like this, right? Think about a drop of water. It goes, right? It spreads. So if the apo is more, the kalapa should collapse. Means if it is really liquid, if it is the liquid, right? So kalapa will not have a specific shape. It has to be something very sort of fragile and should be flowing and so forth, right? So I don't think the kalapa is of such a nature according to Theravada teachings. Kalapa has a specific shape, means it is some kind of a particle. Liquidity is found with many kalapas together. Many kalapas together. So in the interkalapa apo, if the interkalapa apo is very high, then obviously these has to become a solid because they cannot move. So they have to be a solid, right? They have to be a solid. But if this bondage is completely cut off, they will scatter. They will be air, gas. They will be gas. When this interkalapa bondage is found in an intermediate level, for example, not very strong and not completely empty, not weak, then these particles happen to exist, flow, like keeping some sort of connection between each other. That's the nature of a liquid. That's the nature of a liquid. Then if you go into explain in terms of the inter-apo force, inter-apo, like interkalapa apo, there is a fundamental error in this, because more the interkalapa apo, it becomes solid. When there is no interkalapa apo, it becomes vayu. Okay, that makes sense. So in a liquid, apo is lesser than the apo in a solid, right? If we explain it in terms of interkalapa apo. So instead of going into this approach, we have to acknowledge that interkalapa apo is lessened in the liquid than that of a solid. Thing is, when Buddha explained about apo, my idea is he was talking about a new emerging quality, as what happened in science. You cannot, liquidity has its own identity, but it cannot found without the particles. When the particles are come together, liquidity can be found. So likewise, in a cluster of Rūpa, because liquidity cannot be explained by one kalapa, many kalapas, when many kalapas are together, due to this mechanism, we find a quality called liquidity. That liquidity, that quality that is felt, the nature of flowing, is considered as apo. That is higher than that of a solid. So it has to be taken as a separate quality, separate material quality, not in terms of interkalapa bondage. It's not apo that is found within a kalapa, not apo that is found in the between kalapas. It seems like a quality that is only found in material bodies which are flowing. So that is how I try to see this liquidity in according to the Theravada teachings, right? Then one can ask the question, can liquidity be felt? Can liquidity be felt by the body? There's another question. We feel when something is flowing on our body, when you put the hand into a liquid, that the feel is different. Can liquidity be felt? According to the Theravada teachings, because the fundamentals of the Dhammasangani says it cannot be felt. Paramatta Dipani suggests that when you put your hand into a liquid, what we feel is the Patavi, Tejo and Vayu. Due to these fields, with our mind, we imagine, we come into the idea of a liquidity, but it is not directly felt. Either we understand it through the body sensitivity or by seeing with our eyes, right? So this is the object. Why did we come into this topic today? Because Pottabbayatana is the object that is sensitive to the body sensitivity. So when you're talking about body sensitivity, we have to talk about Pottabbayatana. I didn't talk about it when we discussed the 4 great elements. When we discussed Vanna, Gandha, Rasa and Oja, we purposefully excluded it. Why is that? It is better explained with Kaya Pasada. So Kaya Pasada is a sensitivity. It is sensitive to the hardness. It is sensitive to the heat or the coldness. It is sensitive to the pushing nature, bloating nature, but not the apo. Apo is either interkalapa apo, within the kalapa. Yeah, interkalapa. That is the apo that holds the other rupas in a kalapa. Then the apo that exists between the kalapas. And now we came into another type of apo, which is called liquidity, Paggarana apo, which we didn't discuss so far, till now, till today. Paggarana apo. Abandhana apo is the cohesion. Paggarana apo is the liquidity. How do we explain it? This is how I think. There's no such explanations in the books normally, right? So there are some explanations given by teachers, like if something, apo is something that binds others. If it doesn't get something to bind, it will flow. It's a very conventional explanation. Venerable Rerukani Mahathera gives this explanation. It's very conventional, I would feel. Because the example, the simile was given, if you put water into a dust of cement, it will hold it. The cement particles will be held. So what is this apo functioning? Is it interkalapa apo? No, because when you put water into a cement, the apo is binding cement particles. It's not creating new particles. So even he is talking about interkalapa apo. Apo that facilitates the bondage between 2 hard particles. Right? 2 hard particles. Either, it means he is talking about some particles that facilitates this, because water particles are facilitating this connection between hard cement particles. Then when it doesn't finds something to stick with or to get to bind upon, then it will start to flow. The problem is not about its flowing. What is this nature of flowing? Why water has the quality of flowing? That is the problem here. How do we explain with Rūpa Kalapas in water? When the water is being cooled, it becomes ice. Being heated, it evaporates. It turns into a gas. So likewise, liquidity is a thing that has to be explained. So my opinion is it should be known as some sort of emerging thing. So Buddha was explaining, think about, because liquidity is not possible to be explained with one kalapa. It has to be explained with the body of kalapas. So this, when a body of kalapa apo is in the intermediate level, right? Intermediate level, it starts to flow. That flowing nature that is seen or felt is called apo. Then that is not sensitive to the body sensitivity. The question still remains, what do you feel when you are being dragged? Right. So we conclude the lecture today. We talked about kaya pasada. Kaya pasada is a production of karma and affected by craving to touch. Then we moved on to explain kaya viññāna arises depending on kaya pasada due to the striking. And then the kaya pasada is located with upon the four great elements, Patavi, Tejo, Apo and Vayo. These Patavi or the four great elements are the basis for the kaya pasada. So there is a good strike here. Kaya viññāna as well. We'll be discussing them when we come to the Nama chapter. Then when the striking happens, the bhavanga vibrates and the kaya viññāna arises. Then we moved on to explain the occasions when kaya pasada is not found, and every karma being is with kaya pasada by birth, actually from birth. Then we explained about the Potthabba Rūpa, Patavi, Tejo and Vayu that has been felt through the kaya pasada, and how to apo is not felt, and apo within a kalapa and apo in between the kalapas, which we have discussed in detail in the previous semester. Then how about then we had to raise a question about the dragging nature, and we talked about the liquidity, paggarana, apo. And it all shows that all these qualities are non-self realities, which are not self, which are produced by causes, and this knowledge, vast knowledge, would surely help us to understand that the non-self realities are happening due to causes, and that knowledge would be surely sufficient and helpful for our vipassana practice. So I hope you got the idea. I will open the forum for the Q&A session.
May I ask my question, Your Reverence?
Sure.
I understood the lecture, but as for me, I have to listen again to better understand it. But I have a simple question. When we touch water, we feel a tactile sensation.
Sorry?
I think that sensation is due to the earth element, heat element and air element present in water. Water thing what is called water by us. Is it correct?
What is the feeling you mentioned? A sort of a contact, right?
Yes, tactile feelings.
Tactile feeling.
That is something like tangible.
Yeah. That, according to the teachings, it is either Patavi or Tejo or Vayu. And sometimes we feel our hand is being pushed and it's difficult to be moved within the water. So these are all due to, it's a different type of a Patavi, different type of Patavi is being felt and different type of Apo, Vayu is felt. But fundamentally, according to Theravada, this is either Patavi or Vayu. If you feel the coolness or the hotness, that is Tejo. Then we understand this Apo nature, the flowing nature, as a secondary step.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Thiruvan Saranai. May I have your permission, sir?
Yes, sure.
My question is actually concepts of Patavi, Apo, Tejo and Vayu was there even before Lord Buddha came into being.
Yes.
And even the meditational methods of Patavi Kasina, Apo Kasina, Tejo Kasina and Vayu Kasina probably had been there before that.
Yes.
You can correct me if I am wrong.
Yes.
So that is one question. So in that, what was the accepted Panyati or what was the accepted standard which was classified into those four? If you can do a simple explanation, that would be much appreciated. That is one. Then the other is, when it comes to Lord Buddha, I am told only a Samyak Sambuddha is capable of performing Ama Mahapelahara. I don't know the English word.
Yama Mahapelahara.
Yeah, Yama Mahapelahara. And in that, he has the ability to get into Chatutta Dhyana based on Apo Kasina and Tejo Kasina almost simultaneously. I am told it's one Chittutpada after the other or something like that. So it is with that ability he is being able to perform that miracle or that super act. So there must be something in it. It's wrong to call it magic. It's not magic, but there is something real about it. And so there should be, though Lord Buddha may not have preached that to the disciples, because probably he found there's no point in getting into those scientific nitty-gritty we are trying to now clarify. I'm sure there must be something there. And I'd like to know your opinion about that as well.
Okay, thank you for your question. Yes, the concepts of Patavi Tejo, Apo Tejo, Vayo was there in before the Buddha, not only in the Indian subcontinent, but also in the Europe, in Greece even. But they have used different name terminologies, but the concept of fire, water, earth and air as the fundamental causes of the material world has been existing. The concept has been existing, the notion has been existing much before the Buddha has appeared. But there's a contrast that we can find out a contrasting difference when we come to the Buddha's teachings. But I have not gone deeply into the other doctrines with regard to this. Thing is, when you come into the sutras, Buddha was preaching very similar to that of other doctrines, like the hard thing is called Patavi, the flowing thing is called Apo, a flowing thing, a water, a mass of water. Fire itself is called Tejo, and the air that flows, especially the wind, is called Vayu. But when you meticulously study the doctrine of the teachings, I have given that in the initial lectures for the Rūpa. Sometimes the Buddha has classified or defined Rūpa in terms of the abandoned quality of a certain thing. Abandoned quality of a certain thing. The hair itself was called Patavi, that is also can be accepted by any philosopher of that era who has studied some doctrines would say, yes, Patavi is something which is hard, something which is hard, a tangible, extended thing. Then Apo is a liquid, not the liquidity, liquid. Tejo is the fire, and Vayo is the flowing thing. But in some definitions, in some teachings, he has gone into the abstract quality of these things. Why something is called Patavi? Because it possesses the hardness. I'm pretty much sure that even the other philosophers would also have known this, understood this. Why we call something hard? Because it has the hardness. So Buddha has, in some teachings, especially in the Dhatu and Ayatana teachings, we find that he was more emphasizing on the quality, the hardness, the liquidity, the cohesive nature, the heat instead of fire. So heat can be found in the body, and also the bloating, pushing nature. And this, the real conspicuous nature and also the unique peculiar nature of his teachings is that he advocated a non-self doctrine with regard to these realities. The hardness itself cannot be proclaimed as a self. It's just mere hardness. The liquidity itself cannot be called a self or I. The heat itself, the pushing nature itself, and then he went in to explain about the sensitivities and so forth, and he extended the list of the materials things. So likewise, the concept was there, and some believe that our body is made out of these elements, and at the death, they go into the original sources of the nature. The earth part of our body would get into the soil, the liquid part would mix with the water, air part would go into the air, heat, I'm not sure how, but still it will be transformed, and the self would vanish into the space. So that's some Pakuda Kachayana, for instance, explained like this. He advocated like this. So and then when we come into the Kasina jhanas, yes, there's a difference that we have to keep in mind, focusing on Kasina meditation and the 4 great elements. So when we, for instance, we think about white Kasina, for instance, this plate can be used as a white Kasina, though it's quite small, smaller as to the size recommended. Think this is a white image. White color, it's the ultimate reality. So in Kasina, we are not focusing merely at the color. We focus on the object, which has a specific shape. A white color shaped, circular shaped object. So this is the object of Kasina, not the color. If we take this as a Patavi, normally we take the brown color one for Patavi. That is what is recommended, because that's the idea which is very common. Imagine if this is brown color, for example. We are not focusing on the hard nature in the Kasina meditation. We are not focusing on the color. We focus on the thing that is abundant with hardness, which has abundant hardness and has a particular shape with a color. So in Kasina meditation, we go into the things, hard things, liquid things, flowing things, heat things like fire. But when it comes to the Vipassana, like in the Abhidhamma perspective, Abhidhamma point of view, and also explained in some sutras, we go into the nature, the quality. But in some sutras, Buddha has explained Patavi as a hard thing, Apo as a flowing nature. That is also matching with other philosophers. But the thing is, either the thing is hard stuff, or either he was advocating about the quality, the mere quality. He claimed that this is a non-self reality. This doesn't have a self. Then there's another peculiar nature, a unique nature of the Buddha's teachings. He just did not say that there's no self, but he also advocated that these realities arise and pass away, happen in generations, and this generation would continue after death. That is a very important point in Buddhist teaching. It would continue after death as a non-self process due to the causes. That is another very important point. It's not only the non-selfness. If now, for example, scientifically we know, science would reject the idea of a self, of a soul. It has no reasons to believe in a soul. So when the cells are dead, the organism would come to an end. Only thing that remains in the world is the genes that it has given to his offspring. That's the only thing remains within the world out of that organism. So science is a non-self doctrine. Modern science is a non-self doctrine, but it doesn't advocate of a rebirth. The non-self rebirth is the Buddha's unique teaching. The ones who advocated a rebirth talked about a self. How could rebirth happen without a self? The ones who advocated a non-self doctrine would claim that there is no rebirth. But Buddha went in to explain non-selfness, non-self doctrine together with a rebirth. How to maintain this seems like very contradicting to each other. How could rebirth happen without a self and still the karma is working from past to present? So that is a tough one. So that is the unique teachings of the Buddha. So as you said, the doctrine of 4 great elements did exist before the Buddha, not only in the Indian subcontinent, but also in Greece. Thales said that everything is born out of water. Another philosopher said everything is made out of fire. Another one would say, as my memory was correct, air. So there was some, the idea was prevailing in the ancient worlds. Then we come into your next question about the Yamaka Patihara. In Sinhalese we call Yama Maha Pelahara. The English term is twin miracles. Twin miracles. Why is Yamaka? Yamaka is twins always. Yamaka. That's why the doctrine Yamaka, the 6th book of Abhidhamma was called Yamaka, because you have 2 questions at every. Always a question is paired with another reverse question. Yamaka. Yamaka Patihara means doing opposite miracles seems like simultaneously, not simultaneously. So what happens, the mechanism is, and it can be done like, for example, he would emit water and fire from his body, which are of opposite nature. He would create another figure like him and make the figure to do something completely opposite of what he is doing. While he is standing, the Buddha figure would sit. While the Buddha figure is standing, he would walk. So this is called yamaka. He is making to do, he is creating some two different things and make them two different, completely different functions. So regard to water and fire, when water is omitted from the fingers, fire would be omitted between the fingers. I don't know how to call this. Even in Sinhalese, I don't know how these parts, right? So likewise, opposite miracles were done. Omitting water and omitting fire can be done by Savaka. There's no problem in it. But the thing is, they would be able to do it, but they would not be able to perform it as it is happening at the same time. They are not very fast in this. They are able to emit water, and they are also able of omitting fire. There are many stories in the Tipitaka that Savakas has done it. The thing is, the Buddha's swiftness is in his wisdom. He, in order to emit fire, you have to go into the Tejo Kasina, emerge from it, do the preliminary requisites, preliminary functioning. There should be some mind processes, and then go into the next. For example, after omitting fire, he moves to the emitting water. It has to be done with a certain process. So he does like after emitting fire, he moves into water, or either after water moves into fire. Since his mind is so fast, the ones who are looking from outside would see as they are coming out at the same time, but actually they are coming one after another. They are coming out. Even a Buddha cannot omit them at the same time. No possible, because they are cause and effects. And Buddha has all clearly given the instructions how to emit water and how to emit fire. The thing is, Savakas are unable to do it at the same time as the Buddha does. Yeah, so, and then is it a magic? According to the Theravada teachings, I have to fix to the fundamentals. According to the Theravada teachings, it is something that is created by mind. These are called Chitta Paccaya Utuja Rūpa. We will be discussing them in future lectures. Chitta Paccaya Utuja Rūpa, that is been created by the mind. Rupas created by the mind. There are some rupas created by karma, like the divine mansions in the divine realm, not the body, not the divine figure, the mansions. They get the mansions, the houses. They are also created by the karma, but they are fundamentally Utuja Rupas. We shall be discussing them later. Therefore, there are instances in which karma is affecting the Rupa, karma is producing Rupa, Chitta is affecting Rupa, Chitta is producing Rupa. There are some special cases. So it's not a magic according to the Theravada teachings. And how long could they last? It depends on the one who determines. The one who determines. Even a Buddha will not be able to make last a Rupa forever. No, not possible. It says that if he doesn't determine, after some time things would naturally vanish. If it determines for a certain period, it may stay during that period and vanishes. And that capacity, whether the Rupa would last to the exact amount of time that he has determined, depends on the spiritual qualities of the psychic person. So that much information are found in the doctrine. That is how I would explain about the Yamaka. Because since why it is so fast, why he could do it so fastly, during that process of doing the twin miracles, his Javana process are contracted to 4 Javanas. Instead of having 7 Javanas, either only 4 or 5 Javanas would arise during that period. And even the Bhavangas, while we have many Bhavangas happening between Vitis, while the Buddha is doing the twin miracles, only 2 Bhavangas flow between the Vitis. Because that is also because without the Bhavanga Charana, a Viti cannot happen. That's why the 2 Bhavangas are flowing. So his mind is very active on its fullest level at that time, so he's able to perform a miracle that a person would be surprised. It's not that we are surprised greatly. Actually, we would feel it as something great. But actually, the real person who will be surprised is the one who really possesses psychic powers. He is the one who knows how difficult it is to bring out fire and water. For us, it's just a story. So we'll be happy and we'll be elated by our teacher is able to do that. But a person who really possesses psychic powers, seeing that capacity, would surely be surprised. How could he do that? For example, athlete, for instance, if now Usain Bolt has run 9.5658 something seconds the 100 meters. For example, if someone runs 100 meters less than 9 seconds, it's not we will be surprised. Actually, Usain Bolt will be surprised that how could he do that, because he knows how much he struggled to, how much he worked hard to get into that level. And if someone could run less than 9 seconds, he will be the one who will be really surprised that how could he do that. So likewise, a person who has psychic powers would be the one who is really surprised when seeing the Buddha performing twin miracles in such a manner. That's something additional I want to add.
Thank you very much for that excellent explanation, and all these explanations help us to increase our saddha, because this shows the greatness of Lord Buddha, and thank you very much. But I need your permission to ask one more question regarding a statement you made at the beginning of the lecture regarding the Brahmaloka. So you very correctly said Asanya Satta has already suppressed the mind process, and Arupa Brahma has suppressed the material form process. And you said it looks as if it is not possible to suppress both. Actually, both are suppressed. Isn't that the Nibbana? When both processes are completely stopped, so that it will not arise again, never in the future, is Nibbana. But my question is really about, again, Lord Buddha, and it is the Buddha's teachings which enables someone to attain, at least an Anagami or an Arhat person to attain Nirodha Samapatti. I don't know the English word for it, please translate. And Nirodha Samapatti is the status which is closest to suppressing both the material form and the mental processes. So what is your advice, explanation on that?
Yeah, thank you for that question also. I was mentioning about suppression. So when you were talking, Mr. Kisri is talking about eradication. Yes, they can be eradicated together, but they cannot be suppressed together. If you suppress both together, you will be still in the samsara, because it's only suppressed. So one has to be born. How could a birth happen without Nama and Rūpa? That's the fundamental paradox that we are in. So that's why I said it seems like for example, it seems like they can be suppressed, but even be suppressed is not going to affect as we want. Something will come up. Eradication, yeah. If you eradicate, you'll be completely free, because there will be no rebirth. That's perfectly okay. Then regarding the Nirodha Samapatti and the absence of Chitta in the Asanya Satta, these are two different processes and two different functionings. Asanya Satta is that we don't get the mind to happen from the birth. That is, we are suppressing a Vipaka Chitta. The Patisandhi Chitta is not happening. In the Nirodha Samapatti, we are stopping actually at the Javana level. After that consciousness passes away, the Neva Sanya, Nasanyayatana passes away, the Bhavanga process or the Neva Sanya process, whatever was supposed to happen, would stop. Actually, it seems like the Javana is being stopped, because when you emerge from the Nirodha, again a Javana Chitta arises. So after a Javana passes away, another Javana arises, so the mind process is stopped. But we have to say it stops the entire mind process, all chittas. That is the fundamental explanation. But it is stopped at the in between the javana process. But in the asanya satta level, karma is giving a patisandhi, is a new life. In that life, while the kamaja rupas are produced, chitta is not happening. So these are completely two different processes. And is Nirodha Samapatti the closest to the Nibbana? Actually, chitta is absent. Then one can ask the question, what is the difference between asanya satta and the Nirodha Samapatti? That is a very tough question to answer. What is the difference? Because both doesn't have the consciousness. The thing is, we have to understand what Nibbana is. Nibbana is the freedom from the suffering to come. A person who has attained the Nirodha Samapatti is either anagami or an arahant. He is either an anagami or an arahant. If he is an anagami, he is freed from the suffering of the karma realm that is to come after this birth. He is freed from, if in arahant, he is freed from all the sufferings after this birth. But an asanya satta being, though he doesn't possess consciousness, he is bound with the suffering to come. So these are the two great differences of this. Though if you just focus on the absence of the consciousness, yes, both are identical in the sense of absence. The difference is whether someone is bound with the suffering to come, and while the other one is, someone is bound with the suffering to come, and other one is freed from suffering to come, at least a greater part. So that's why Nirodha Samapatti is considered. Now, what is the speciality in Nirodha Samapatti? Then someone can ask the question, even Arahant who has not attained the Nirodha Samapatti is also freed from the suffering. Yes, he is freed from the suffering, but he still possesses the suffering of the continuation of the consciousness. That part is been removed now. So therefore, our Arahant who is in the Nirodha Samapatti is in a higher bliss than an Arahant who is not in the Nirodha Samapatti. But is it completely identical with the Anupadisesa Nibbana? No, because still he possesses the Rūpa, and that consciousness is going to happen again after he emerges from the Nirodha Samapatti. The one who has attained, after attaining the Anupadisesa Parinirvana, the consciousness is not going to happen for whatever reason. So these are the three differences between Asanya Satta, Nirodha Samapatti, and the status of Parinibbana. Right? So, an Asanya Satta is regarding suppressing the consciousness throughout an entire life. Nirodha Samapatti is a suppression that happens within the life. Parinibbana is a state that we attain due to eradication of defilements. That's how I would like to look into this question.
Sorry to trouble you more, but on the same question, according to Mahāvedalla Sutta, what is explained there is even, I will use the Pali verse, Vachi Sanskara and Kaya Sanskara also stops in Nirodha Samapatti. So that is explained as no more breathing, inhaling and exhaling of air. And also I am told the heart also stops. So the body, though the body is there, and organs also stop functioning completely when the heart stops. That we know medically, that is proven. And in that state, that probably I think, this is my opinion, the Nirodha Samapatti I am told is only maximum 7 days. So that may be the time the physical body can tolerate that kind of status without nutriment. Nirodha Samapatti stage, that's why I try to say it's a state where both material processes as well as mental processes really disappear.
No, material process is part of material processes. The Anapana is Chittaja process, it stopped, but the Kamaja process, because if you go into the Mahāvedalla Sutta itself, it's the differences of these persons that his Ayu is still remaining. Ayu means Ayu means Jivita Indriya Rūpa, and the Kamaja Rūpas are still happening. So the material processes are still going on. His nutriment process, Aharaja Rūpa, Kamaja Rūpa, Utuja Rūpas are happening. Only the Chittaja Rūpa process is stopped. It's not all the materials processes are stopped.
Thank you very much.
So the time has up. So yeah, so I hope you got some ideas, and there will be very good questions as well. So today we discuss about the Kaya Pasada and the Pottamba Rūpa. And tomorrow there will be no classes. I'll have to go to Colombo for a emergency case. So I'll be doing in the next Saturday actually. Tomorrow there will be no classes. Next Saturday, now since we have done Jivitendriya, 2 Bhava, and all 6 Vatturupas. So we have done all the Kamajarupas. Now I'll go into some sort of analysis about the Kamajarupas, some very unique topics about them, and move on to explain some special aspects of Kamajarupas. So I hope you got something from the lecture, and may this merit helps us to attain Nibbana, and also may this merit helps for the sustaining of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanang Chirantittatu, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.